Macro security levels. We've seen before that when we open a macro-enabled workbook, we have to enable the macros to run. And this is because of the default settings I have set up on this machine. The different levels of macro security, if we go to the Developer tab and we select the Macro Security button, you'll see here we have 4 different options we can choose. We can disable all macros without notification. This would mean that no macros whatsoever would run, and given you're investigating Excel and VBA, I don't think this is an option you're going to choose. Disable all macros with notification, and this would be my default setting. If I received a file from someone I didn't know, I would normally be very, very suspicious to avoid getting a virus or something like that. And as we've seen what we can do with macros, things like creating documents, sending emails and so on, we could now begin to write unfriendly macros. Obviously we shouldn't. So if I get an attachment from someone I don't know, wasn't expecting an attachment, I'm quite happy to open it if it's Excel or Word or PowerPoint, because my default settings are tell me there's macros but don't let them run by default. And I can open the workbook, have a look at the macro code, make sure there's nothing nefarious in there, and then close and reopen and allow them to run if needs be. Then we have disable all macros except digitally signed macros. And we'll talk about digital signatures in a further lesson. This is a way of identifying who has created the macro-enabled workbook. And the fourth option, one that I would never recommend choosing, is enable all macros. This will basically allow everything to run regardless, which is very dangerous if you do receive files externally. Even someone that sent you a file that you might know may have gotten that from a source that you don't or shouldn't trust. So these are different settings we can set in our macro-enabled workbooks. One final point, I know we've come across this before, but again, for your macros to run, you need to save your workbook as a macro-enabled workbook.xlsm.